Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar today. I am so glad to have you with us. My name is Alexandra Alvarado. I'm the Director of Marketing and Education at the American Apartment Owners Association. We have with us the team from LiftMaster back again to talk about budgeting and security solutions, which are both super important. So we're going to have some time here to go through some slides, learn a little bit about that, and at the end have a Q&A session. We are recording this whole thing, so please, if you miss anything, don't worry. I'm going to email you the recording tomorrow, as well as all of the contact information and any offers or anything we may have discussed, including the slides, so you can always review it later if you need to. And I do hope you all stick around for the Q&A. If you do have questions, make sure you put them in the question box. So there's a Q&A box you'll see either at the top or bottom of your screen. That helps us track the questions a little better. Chat is also available, but Q&A is the best place for your questions. So with that said, I'm really happy to have you all with us. Gordon, it's great to see you, and as well, Rebecca. So I'm going to hand it off to you to get started and take the presentation from here.
Great. Thank you for that warm introduction, Alexandra. So hello, everyone. And again, thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Smart Security, Budgeting for Small Property Owners. We're very excited to present to you today on this topic. Again, my name is Gordon Burns. I am the Business Sales Manager here at LiftMaster. You can advance the screen, please. And joining me today is my colleague, Rebecca Peterson. Rebecca is our Director of Community Product Management. Unfortunately, due to the inclement weather here in the Southeast, Marion Walker is not able to join us, but sends her regards. Combined, Rebecca and I bring over 15 years of experience working within the multifamily industry with owners, developers, property management companies, both big and small. It's our intention that after today's call, you come away with a better understanding of how to implement a smart access solution for your property, while doing so, of course, within budget and while seeing an ROI. Next slide, please. So before we talk about today's agenda, if you haven't already received the link to register for a free one-on-one consultation, you will receive that at the conclusion of today's call. So for everyone who registers and completes the consultation, we are offering a $50 Amazon gift card as a thank you. The consultation will actually allow us to learn more about your specific property or properties and to share with you how LiftMaster can potentially help. And one lucky person from today's call will also receive and be awarded with a free video intercom for their property, which is valued at $1,300 plus 3 free months of our software. So let's talk about today's agenda if we could. So while we hope to keep today's call, again, very interactive, what we've done is we've prepared an agenda to help guide us along the way. And the topics here that you'll see that we'll be covering is why security is a worthy investment for your property, the key differences between OPEX, so operating expenses, and CapEx, capital expenses, what is smart security, the ROI of smart security, and solutions for small MDUs. If you can advance the slide, please. So why is security a worthy investment? So as we speak to owners, developers, and property managers each and every day, we hear many different reasons, as you'll see below, as to why they choose to implement an access control solution for their property. So Rebecca, being that you've spent over 10 years in the multifamily space here at Chamberlain as part of our product team, director of our product team, and working with thousands and thousands of property management companies and individual properties, maybe you can shed some light into, what security is as far as a worthy investment.
No worries, Gordon. And thank you everyone for joining. Just quick intro, my name is Rebecca Peterson. So a couple of things really, as we think about properties and property management, a lot of things have kind of been asked from users in terms of, in terms of two things, right? Property managers want and property owners want a lot more flexibility to be able to manage things remotely, right? They're, in many cases, doing multiple jobs, right? They have a normal job, plus they also have to manage the properties, and they want the ability to kind of manage from afar and also have a lot of visibility of what's happening. So is there an incident that's happened? Are residents being safe? And then residents themselves want more security. In essence, they don't always feel that they feel safe in their space. And even though it's a rental, in many cases, they still want to be safe in their home, right? So, and as you think about the demographics of the up and coming generation, a lot of the millennials are really willing to pay more money for actual enhanced security. So you see some of these stats here, right? 63% of millennial renters are saying that they would move out if they felt that their space was not secure. And the other thing is that, as you think about crime in certain cities, things happen, right? Like burglaries, package thefts, things of that nature. So you want to be able to provide security features to make your residents happy that not only will retain them, but also allow you to actually enhance those that want to live there. The other thing too is, people will pay more for security. We've heard statistics here, 50% of renters are willing to pay at least $20 more per month if they had some sort of high-tech security, such as like a smart lock or some sort of mobile keyless experience. The other thing too is, I would say that COVID really kind of changed a lot of the landscape of multifamily and properties in general. You think about people are working more remotely because companies have been more flexible in that nature. So more people are working there all the time, being there all the time. And then the other thing is that the increase of deliveries, right? So that's a trend that never went away, right? I mean, yeah, Amazon was kind of key before COVID, but then once COVID hit, now you're still doing your Uber Eats, you're still doing your grocery deliveries. And so you want a way to provide enhanced security for the residents so that they can manage some of these deliveries and really make it a worthwhile investment for your property.
Great, Rebecca. Thank you for that oversight. And Alexandra, maybe this would be a good time to pop in a couple of survey questions for the participants on today's call.
Yeah, absolutely. So first question is, what is your role? Sorry, I think it says untitled for some reason, but the question is, what is your role? Are you a property owner or landlord? Are you a property manager, a maintenance manager, or something else? You can pop in the chat if you are something other than what's listed there. I know most of you are property owners and property managers. We have a few that might be agents or brokers, perhaps. So you can pop that in the chat. That'd be great. I'll go ahead and share the results in just a moment. All right, there you go. You're able to see the results here.
70% property owners and landlords. That's great.
Great.
So hopefully this resonates with some of you as you're hearing about more security here. Yeah.
All
And then
right.
did we want to ask our second question as well, our second survey question?
Yeah, absolutely. What property type do you manage? So there's several here. We're called the American Apartment Owners Association, but I know you guys do manage other kinds of rentals sometimes too. So would be curious to hear what kind you do manage or own. And you can put it in the chat if it is something other than what is here. We'll give you a little longer to answer that. All right, let's take a look. Most of you are multifamily, as expected, but we do have a few in commercial and gated home communities, so that's interesting. And whoever's answering other, I would love to hear what you are managing or owning in the chat if you see it at the bottom or top of your screen, but I'll let you get to it. Oh, looks like here the other says we manage an RV park, which is more like a bedroom
Oh,
community, 42 RV sites. Interesting.
Okay,
3
great.
apartments, 2 houses, and a cottage. Woo, that's diversified. I like it.
Keeping
Melba,
busy.
Melba, just a condo. That's great. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing here.
Awesome. And Jen, you could advance to the next slide. So here on this slide, we're going to talk about just briefly the differentiating between OpEx, again, operating expenses, and CapEx, capital expenses. Rebecca, you're probably more geared to talk about this better than I am, although I know the difference between the two. So if you want to take a stab at educating our
yeah.
viewers today.
Yeah, this is kind of like investing 101, right? So the term OpEx is really meant for more like, day-to-day operating expenses, really short-term payments in terms of like rents, utilities, anything that's more of a, like an operational expense to kind of maintain the building or property. Capital or CapEx is more capital expenses or more larger investments in terms of asset attention. So like if you are making some major upgrades to your property, adding an extension to a building, these are more that things that might depreciate over time and they're higher dollar value items. And why they're kind of important in understanding is as you think about like smart security or access control, there is definitely differences between how I would say the market has shifted between OpEx and CapEx. As we think about like smart security and smart safety back in the day, it would be a lot of things that would kind of just reside. You upgrade your building in terms of adding, let's say, a old buzzer or an old system. That would be considered a capital expense. But now as we're doing more, software cloud services, that now turns more into an operating expense, right? So if I'm paying for a software subscription so I can manage my property or I can see my camera feeds, that now shifts more to an operating expense. Now, Gordon, if you wanted to add a little bit more to that.
Yeah, no, I think you hit it, just right on the head, right? Again, the operating expenses as I talk to multifamily properties each and every day, would be the ongoing monthly or annual software subscription costs that come with an access control solution like ours. The capital expense, of course, would be the one-time cost for the, initial hardware, the intercom itself, and any other access control points, as well as the installation of that hardware, right? So again, operating expenses, I know that as a property owner, you want to be able to limit those costs as much as possible, right? Because you've got your trash, you've got your water, you've got, maybe valet laundry service, the list goes on and on, that you might be paying for. So those things quickly add up. So again, I think you covered that quite well. Let's jump into the next slide number 6. So let's talk about, what is smart security and why is it so important, right? So as we, again, talk with owners and property management professionals, sometimes the what and the why may mean different things to different people, right? So for example, I've heard from many property managers that they implement a smart access control solution because their neighboring property has one. And so in an effort to be competitive for future residents, who might be looking at your property and the property next door and so on and so forth, they want to be able to keep up with the Joneses. So again, that's one of the reasons why we see a lot of properties today converting from maybe an old legacy Door King or push button intercom into something more technologically focused. So Rebecca, perhaps you can share with us, your take on what is smart security and why properties choose to use us.
And Rebecca, if you have
Oh,
1 second first, looks like a question popped up while you're speaking, Gordon.
Yeah.
Fire control and prevention systems, which category would you put that in?
Fire control and prevention systems. I think that's pretty much probably in a category all itself, right? Not something that we do as a company, but we work with a lot of installation partners across the country that do focus in those areas that we can be happy to direct you to.
I would say though, in general, I think they're asking more if it's an operating expense or a capital expense. I
Oh,
think
gotcha. I'm sorry.
for most, yeah, I think they were in the last slide. For the most part, I think that's capital expense. It's very similar if you're upgrading your whole building, right? And depending if you're going to have to put fire sprinkler or anything of that nature, it's a pretty big investment. But obviously, as those companies also sometimes have like monthly cloud fees, then that becomes an operating expense. And the reason why it's important, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, is that it can have different tax implications that might be a benefit to you. But we'll talk that a little bit later. Thank you for the question, though. Okay, so going back to I think your question about smart security. I think this really, to me, you kind of hit it when you asked the what and the why. For me, a lot of it has to do, like, as we think about a property, what exactly is the property trying to do and what are their needs, right? And there's ways that you can do this in a very small incremental fashion before you like full blown. I will tell you that one of the things that we like to do here at LiftMaster is that we have sales team members that will come on site and really kind of consult in a way of like, what are you looking to do and how we can provide you those, incremental changes. So if you wanted to start out small with a intercom, you wanted to add in-unit locks, if you wanted to add, door controllers, whatever it may be. But I think the point of it is, what are the benefits behind it all, right? So you'll see in here, right, enhanced security, right? The value of video is very, very impactful. And, efficiencies that you get from providing some of this smart security, right? So if you think about the fact that if I had a system that allowed me remotely to, manage the locks, grant temporary access, if someone gets locked out, I don't have to, get out of my comfy PJs at 2 a.m. to kind of drive over to let someone in. And how do you maybe improve the resident experience, right? We can provide people with touchless access options, ways that they can really use, as I like to say, your phone as your access credential so that you don't have to manage then physical keys, cards, fobs, whatever it may be. So it really just depends on the needs of how people want to implement smart security. But it, to your point, Gordon, it has a really wide gamut of how you can provide this, how you can answer this.
Yeah, I think today's renters, expect technology-based solutions, especially in, newer properties specifically, but, also some of the older properties that might be looking to upgrade their systems. You talked about improving the resident experience, right? We know that for a fact. One of the things that you're able to do with our app as a resident is to send, for example, your daily dog walker or your weekly house cleaner temporary codes to get into the building. But you as a building owner can manage and see who's coming in and who's going out of that property. With our video intercom, you'll find that we are taking basically video 15 seconds before and 15 seconds after of everybody coming into that property. So again, many different things that we can do with our solution, and that's what the consultation will be when we have our one-on-one with you, is to talk a little bit more about what your needs are and how we can help. So moving forward to the next slide. So the ROI, looks like was there a question there?
Yes, I was just going to pause you. The question just came in. Are there any privacy limits to recordings at apartment complexes?
Rebecca, I'll let you take that one.
So that is a good question. So in general, when we talk about the recordings, two things. The intercom itself has what we call live feeds in essence. Think of it kind of like your Ring or camera in a way. The web platform is the only way that those users actually can see that stream. So this is really role-based. So it's really the property landlord, the property manager can see that. The resident itself is just having that conversation, that recording of that interaction with that user. So it's not like a public wide recording. And by the way, there is no audio that's actually recorded in that. It's just the video clip, because there are privacy laws in terms of having consent from people about the audio. So we are very thoughtful on it. And by the way, on the device itself, it actually gives you a warning that you're being recorded. And the reason why, because it's meant to also deter from vandalism, right? So you want to be able to know that people know you've installed this and it's providing you some level of security. The privacy laws do vary from state to state, and this is why we can kind of guide you as well. All of our devices have been installed with obviously our legal consent, our legal counsel to really guide us in its design.
Great. So as we talk about the ROI of smart security, a lot of great stats that you'll see here on this screen that our marketing team has gathered. Again, as we meet with owners, property management professionals, we understand that implementing a smart security solution is an investment, much like the investment that you made in purchasing your property. So as such, with every investment that you make, you want to see an ROI. So what is the ROI for implementing an access control solution? So some of the thoughts and one of the things you'll see in the information that we send you after today's call is, one, we've seen that you can get an estimated $600 in annual rental increase per unit thanks to increased security. 80% tax write-off for a smart video intercom that you buy this year. And we've seen 4 hours of time saved per month by eliminating after hours calls for residents, whether that be lost keys, I'm locked out of the building, I can't get maintenance into the building. I'm an owner of a property. I have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to rush over to my property because there's a water leak. Again, as we talked about the what and the why on the previous slide, these are many things that we're hearing. Rebecca, maybe you can add some thought into what I just mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit on it. Like, this is where I think the flexibility of modern solutions has been really thinking about, efficiencies, right? So if you think about smart locks, key, key pins, right? Like you can change those out easily, right? So if someone moves in, moves out, that is much more efficiency on your time. If someone is moving in, you can easily send them a welcome package. Here's your new PIN code to get into your community, right? Or your property. You can do a lot more onboarding. It gives you a lot more flexibility that you can't even really quite capture in these tangible operational efficiencies because it's like, a reduction in what you were always doing. A lot of interviews we've done, it's amazing how many people become like, the front desk that's collecting packages and then having to get them to people, right? Amazon constant deliveries, you don't have to do that. You can now install a lot of different solutions in there and give you a lot more operational efficiencies. And obviously you've hit on some of these stats as well.
Yep.
And security is big, right? So those are not just impacts to you, but also your residents. So if you can prevent that as well, that's a return on investment to your resident as well.
Absolutely. So, Alexandra, perhaps we can take a pause real quick and ask those couple additional survey questions that we have for today's audience before we move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Question here, what are your primary security needs? So check out the poll, guys. We have unauthorized access, key management, tenant safety, vandalism, theft, or other. And I know key management would probably include like, people lose their keys, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So let's see what you all have to say. I'll give you a little bit more time. And David says here in the chat, we have properties in Florida where we had a company who shows properties with remote facial cameras to access properties. Interesting.
Yeah.
Byron says all of the above for me. I can see that. These are all valid concerns and they're all possibilities, right? That's what that's what being a landlord is really. You have to always be looking out for these things. Ian says once we start down that road, it's very likely never going to go backwards.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving forward here, we have so much great technology now that's available for large and small property owners. So we should take advantage of that. Um, Woodland RV Park says for us, it's just making sure our tenants are safe and secure. No one is allowed in our office unless management is there. Good idea. Good idea.
That makes sense.
Okay, I'm going to share the results here. So key management comes on at number one with 43% of you answering that. Tenant safety second, and tied for third, unauthorized access and theft, and vandalism and other on just one of you said the other. But I think we got some more comments in the chat to expand on that. So overall property awareness from looks like Gwendolyn, illegal parking, noise, activity, complaints. Yeah. Those are good
Okay,
ones too.
great.
And I can tell you on key management, I've seen people that show me like those manila like envelopes, just here's how I manage my keys, right?
Oh
So
my goodness.
there's like no management to management to like obviously you want smart solutions that you don't have to manage keys anymore.
I hate to admit this, but I even still use manila folders to store my notes. And I'm a technology guy. Well, great. Well, thank you for posing those questions to the audience. If we can move forward to slide 8, please. So let's talk about our solutions for small property owners. While LiftMaster and our My Community community platform can provide solutions really for any type of property and for any size property, what we'd like to talk with you today about is obviously and focus on the small property owner. So you've got your smart intercom systems and you've got your access control. Perhaps Rebecca, maybe if you want to take the smart intercom and talk about the Cap Access intercom, and maybe I can talk a little bit about the MyQ access control solution.
Absolutely. So we in essence have a line of smart video intercoms, right? And I want to stress that word video intentionally because there are obviously solutions out there that might just capture a photo still, but we actually do capture a true video stream. And we have different sizes, but particularly for small property owners, what we found in essence is that a lot of times, a lot of manufacturers aren't designing for these spaces. So you're very limited in options, right? So you see those large, big, stainless steel panels that you walk down into the city. They're also being installed in the small properties, and other alternatives people are using are kind of like the Rings or the Nest. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but the difference between a intercom and an access system and in essence, a doorbell is that this device allows you not only to monitor it, but allows you to open the actual door. So it actually will do the trigger. So our devices, in essence, have a video camera that, depending on with the resident app, they can get a phone call, they can have a one-way video, two-way audio conversation, and they can open up that access point to allow someone in. The other big thing with the device itself is that it's got a directory. So you can put in, as many people as you want. We can store up to 500. Obviously, smaller properties, you only need about 10. And then you can also give people PIN code access. So if you still want flexibility outside of the app itself, you can also do that. Now, with it itself, because Gordon, if you want to talk about the app itself, the app also allows you, depending on the doors of access, let's say you had a front door and a garage, or a front door and inside you had a vestibule. On the app itself, you can actually see those doors, and then that resident can remotely open them. And we also have mobile credential experience. So you can actually use your phone as a way to actually gain access yourself. So you can go up to the device, you can actually tap it to unlock it. And we also have a pop-up little mode, like, do you want to open the door, to kind of ask you. So if you had multiple doors, let's say you had a door that had like package deliveries, you'll get a little pop to say, do you want to open it if you happen to walk by it? So a lot of different flexibility. And then with visitor management, as Gordon alluded to earlier, if you had a babysitter, dog walker, you decided to order pizza tonight, we give you a couple different options on how you can actually give a guest pass. So you could do a one-time pass for that pizza scenario, or if you had a dog walker that came every day from 12 to 2, you can give them a reoccurring pass. So a lot of flexibility that is kind of paired within our system. And then Gordon, if you want to talk a little bit about the extra access control.
Yeah, no, I think you did a great job in covering it, right? So again, the residents would receive and have downloaded on their smart devices the MyQ community app. As a property owner, yourself or property management team, you would have admin functionality. So again, with that, you can easily go into a web dashboard and capture everything that's going on within that property. You can even take it down to the level where you can send security alerts and notifications directly to residents to their smartphone. So, for example, if the building is going to have, maintenance workers in the building on a particular day, you can alert the residents of that. If your building may have a rooftop pool, for example, you could say, hey, the pool is closed today due to maintenance. So again, number of different things that you can do both with the app as a resident, as well as the owner, developer, and/or property management team from an admin function that allows you to control your property from a complete access control solution.
One quick question came up in the chat as well as we're talking about all this awesome functionality in order to get into the property. David has asked, for our keyless entry system, is it leveraging battery and Wi-Fi?
Yeah, Rebecca, you want to? Yeah, go ahead.
So two things on the keyless entry, right? So the intercom itself is actually hardwired powered. It does have to have power on it. The device is internet connected, and we got a couple different options. You could do Wi-Fi, you could do Ethernet, or you can also do cellular. So it just kind of depends on your complexity of your application on itself. Now, as you think about the other solutions, we also have smart readers that can be added to our platform. So those are like, if you think about a corporate, I have to log in and use a badge scanner. If you wanted to offer that, that's mainly for larger properties, but the smaller end, you probably won't do that. But we also have integrations with smart lock manufacturers. Most of those are, Wi-Fi enabled smart locks that you can also integrate within our platform. So if you wanted to provide those for the in-unit, you can also do that as well. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah. Any other questions that came in, Jen?
That's the only one so far.
Awesome. And Alexandra, I think we've covered all of our survey questions. Is that correct?
Actually, we do have one more we missed.
Oh,
Do you have an annual budget for property security improvements? Yes or no? If you're on this call, hopefully after this, you'll start to consider having a budget if you say no today, because I think budgeting is really important. I said it last week. We need to think ahead in order to really make the best and the most out of our rental property decisions rather than making them on the fly or just on impulse. Let's think about it now. It's what large corporations do, but it's also what small businesses should do too. And all of you, whether you have a few units or a few hundred, this is something that is important to do, I think, on an annual basis for really all kinds of technology. So let's go ahead and end the poll, and I'll show you the results here. All right, so most of you said no, and some of you said yes. So again, hopefully some of those that have said no will get something from this and start to make some plans for next year. All right, I'll stop the share there.
All right.
very
Awesome.
interesting. Very interesting. Good percentage do not have a budget, which is fine. But and we do know that traditionally, budget cycles kind of come in. Some do, some don't. But this is where, as we mentioned a couple of times, where like Gordon is a great asset to you. Like if you ever want to consider some, improvements for your properties, we can help you in terms of budgeting for that by giving you an estimate of what you might want to do. We can do a site walk, understand, and give you some options. So if you wanted a budget and start small and work your way towards a larger full implementation of an access security system.
We also have a question, I think, related to that. With fraud on the rise, what have you heard for pros and cons?
With fraud on the rise, pros and cons of it, like implementing a intercom for your property. Is that what I'm understanding?
David, can you give us a little bit more to that question? Is this around data privacy and hacking, that sort of conversation, or is there something different?
Hacking. Well, great. Okay, so good question. So in general, like this is where I think you have to be very thoughtful about the partner or the manufacturer you want to look at. So things you need to ask questions on are how do they provide, protect your information, right? And your users' information. I will tell you for LiftMaster, we're actually owned by the Chamberlain Company, and we have some pretty strict restrictions here because we also sell to really large commercial applications, and we also sell to residential, right? For our MyQ garage door side of our business. And so we kind of are certifying our ISO 9001. We do a lot of data privacy regulations that we have to get. We do ISO audits every year. And whenever you've got questions, you can, of course, come to me and Gordon. We can give you some information about all of our data privacy. But those are good questions you should ask for any installation that you're trying to do. Is your information going to be protected? Do they have firewalls behind that? How are they protecting your information? Because cybersecurity, unfortunately, is an issue. And that's something that as an industry we talk about constantly, and how do we continue to evolve that?
Then there's a couple follow-up questions here that I think are related. One is, do we have any protocols or countermeasures in place if and when hacking does happen? And then they're also in the chat, similar, they have friends that tend to give access, tenants that give access to friends as another example of an issue.
So obviously there's, depending on what you mean by hacking, right? I will tell you something that happened just 2 days ago. Someone was trying to use a chat bot to try to verify credit cards were valid, they were stolen credit cards within our system. We, in essence, have a system that flagged it for us. And so we were able to put implementations in there. So we put the CAPTCHA in there, and we've got a couple other like logout protocols. So we're constantly watching our systems, but it really depends what you mean by hacking, because there's a lot of different hacks that can happen out there. But that's just an example of one that happened in real life. In terms of tenant, what did you ask again? Tenants giving access to
Giving
friends?
giving out
So
access to friends and
th
visitors.
this is one thing that I will say about this system, right? We're trying to be very flexible based on what residents are asking for, right? They want to control not only their access, but their own like access to their friends. This is where you have full control of this. Within the web platform, if you feel people are doing this and not abiding by your rules or guidelines, you can easily revoke that. So you don't have to give those guest access features to everyone. So you have that full control. I think this is about you setting some rules around, guest experiences and how you give that out. One of the reasons why, I mean, obviously we still give PIN code access because we want to be flexible. This is why we like the app experience because it's not as easy for people to just easily hand that out, right? No one's going to give you your phone, no one's just going to give you a link. So, trying to give you as much control of how you manage that guest experience and that access experience within your property.
Great. I guess we can move to the next slide, Jen, which is the customer testimonial. So this is, a property owner that we're currently working with, talking about our smart video intercom. And as Rebecca alluded to earlier, this is what our small cap access video intercom looks like. They come in 3 different sizes: small, medium, and large. I think it's 5, 7, and 10-inch screens. Is that correct, Rebecca? Right?
Correct.
So again, no need to read this verbatim. Again, this is just a testimonial. Hopefully, as we work with and engage with AAOA members, we'll have a lot more of these testimonials to present in the future. If you want to move to the next slide.
One quick second.
Yeah.
Another question / statement came from Michael in our Q&A. In short, they are saying that they are not actually offering up key codes for their instance and would like to, not to discuss now, but something we can follow up on is just a third option where there's not actual codes being shared, but rather just using, I'm sorry, that one part, be able to use like their phone as an example to just access.
So just a couple of things on the guest experience. We can either, in essence, you can do a PIN code or you can give a web link. So in essence, when they get close to the proximity, they could just click on the link. So we do have a couple options, and this is where, you can reach out to after the session. We can connect with you and give you more information about options.
Thank you for that.
Okay, great. So recap and key takeaways from today's call. So again, I'm sure it's going to be a little bit different for everyone, but budgeting for security is critical, right? Smart security solutions can be both affordable and effective, and then choosing the right OpEx and CapEx investments for long-term benefits. And again, I think this goes back to us having one-on-one consultation calls, 30 minutes at length, to talk to you a little bit more about your specific needs, your property, and to see if, implementing something like a LiftMaster MyQ community would be the right fit for your property. Rebecca, anything you want to add there at all?
No, I mean, I think you kind of hit it on the head there, Gordon. I think we just want to at least give you a taste of, different, what does it mean by smart security, some options and some budgeting thoughts behind it. This is where, we just want to make sure that you're aware that we have an offering and we have, sales team members that can help provide you some options. So if you ever want to reach out to us, we're happy to expand this conversation beyond this webinar.
We also have another question around keyless locks. That seems to be the hot topic here today. Can your keyless locks be set up for remote showings, and how would that work?
So the keyless locks, again, depending upon the manufacturer of those locks, right? There's Schlage and Yale and Dormakaba, and each of those manufacturers have different models. So again, depending upon the make and model, we may or may not integrate with those specific locks. But again, if your units have smart locks on them, and it is a smart lock that we do integrate with, and assuming your building has Wi-Fi in it, then residents would be able to open, of course, their residential door with the app.
The thing I would say, if it's a remote showing, I'm assuming you mean a vacant unit. you can then obviously assign a PIN code. You could change it out afterwards, right? Just so that you're not leaving that vulnerability of the active resident in there.
Right. Does that answer your question? I'm sorry, it was David.
Uh,
Yes, that was David. He's been very engaged, so thank you, David. I
yeah,
appreciate
okay. Yeah.
it. And it looks like another one just came in from Gwendolyn. Do your locks have a deadbolt in additional to a traditional lock?
This goes again, as Gordon mentioned, it depends on the manufacturer of locks, right? They have a wide platform of options between PIN codes, no PIN codes, the deadbolt, not deadbolt. We can provide you an options of the ones we integrate with, but they do traditionally have deadbolt options.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, so there's no confusion. So LiftMaster ourselves, we do not provide the actual locks. We just provide the integration with those locks. So again, the manufacturers of the locks have many different variances of deadbolts and not deadbolts, pin codes, whatever it might be. Again, those providers are companies like Yale, Schlage, Dormakaba, and others. So at this time, if we want to roll to the next slide, we'd like to open up the call to, again, any other additional questions from the audience that Rebecca or I can answer for you.
And while you're putting in your questions, I do have a final poll here for consultation. So if you do want a complimentary consultation to learn which access control solution is best for you, go ahead and say yes, and then we'll connect you over to someone on the LiftMaster team. I'll leave this up while we do the Q&A so you can answer it. I think it's really going to be good to have a consultation just to have something more personalized for what your needs are. So definitely take advantage of that. I'll leave it up and let you all get to questions.
Okay, so there's one that popped up in Q&A from Stacy, and she apologizes it's already been covered. So I know we've been talking about codes and access here. Do the tenants have access to the control codes for guests, or is that only through management?
So the tenants themselves, the residents, will have the ability to go in and create virtual key codes or delivery passes for, again, either a delivery pizza guy or, again, your dog walker, your daily dog walker, weekly house cleaner, again, using time and date parameters. For example, if your dog walker only comes to the property Monday through Friday between the hours of 12 p.m. and 1 p.m., then that's the only time that dog walker will be able to get into the property. And again, do keep in mind that we are taking live video feed of everyone coming into the property for that additional security. But if we do find that, of course, there are some bad apples, as we kind of talked about and alluded to earlier, then again, restrictions can be made by the admins who have the overall dashboard of the property and what's going on, and they can restrict that access. Does that answer your question?
That was in Q&A. I'm going to assume yes. And if not, please feel free to keep back into the chat or the Q&A section. We also have a very specific question here from David about what is your experience with Chinese-made lock systems?
Rebecca, that's all you.
Sure, what you mean by that. I mean, we traditionally right now our integrations are through Remote Lock, and they have a number of different providers, but we primarily work with really known names like Schlage, Yale, Key and Code. These are commercial rated locks. So don't exactly know if that's answering your question, but we don't really work independently with I guess I'm gonna call them Amazon type Chinese lock manufacturers. We're trying to be very diligent about our validation and who we integrate with. So we don't want to provide you an option that's not going to be supported long term, if that makes sense.
Okay. And then we do have someone asking for your contact information, but I believe that's on your final slide as well. Correct, Gordon?
It is, I believe. Yeah. If you want to at this time, just move to that final slide. That would be great. So again, for those that want to email me directly, what I would recommend though is going to the myq.com/AAOA link. that's provided there. And again, we could set up a consultation. For that consultation, again, as a thank you, we will provide a $50 Amazon gift card when you schedule and complete the meeting. And we will also be a Diamond sponsor at the AAOA Rental Housing Conference on October 16th. There in Long Beach. So for those of you that will be there, I will be representing LiftMaster at that conference. So please stop in, say hello. And again, we'll be offering additional prizes and so forth as giveaways at that conference as well. So again, we appreciate everyone's time on today's call. I know we're just under the hour. So on behalf of LiftMaster, Rebecca, Jen, and the team here, again, we want to thank you for joining us for today's call. If there's anything that we can do to answer any additional questions for you, please feel free to reach out, and we'd love the opportunity to present.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you, Gordon, at the conference. And for those of you that can't come in person, we do have it live streamed this year. So definitely, I know we asked you if you wanted to come. So I hope to see you either virtually or in person. And I'm really glad that we went through all this. Thank you so much for your time, Gordon and Rebecca and Jen, on the, back here answering questions in chat. Really appreciate it. And hopefully, we'll see you all pretty soon. So, I hope you all have a great day. We'll send out the recording tomorrow with all of these resources and the Amazon gift card offer as well. So, hope you all have a wonderful day.
Great. Thanks,
Thank you,
Alexander.
Take
everyone.
care.
Appreciate it.
Bye,
Goodbye.
everyone.